When we're working with multiple shapes, there may be a time that we need to move them or indeed align them in particular ways. And for this reason, Brother included these alignment tools on your Scan and Cut. When you have one or more shapes selected, then you can use the nudge tools, which either tapping and holding will move them down in increments, or you can tap the button once, twice, or as many times as you need to move that exactly where you want it to be on your cutting mat. If you do that and you want to go back a few steps, you can use your undo arrow as well. If you need to get a closer look at what's going on, tap the magnifying glass and perhaps again, and then use the arrows to scroll around the screen until you find the region that you were looking at, and you can now take a much closer look at what's going on. So I can see those shapes are very close to each other but not yet overlapping. That will become relevant later on. I do, however, have an additional section up here, and these are my shortcut keys. If I only have one shape selected, they won't be illuminated. I would need to go back and select more than one shape. Back into my shortcut keys, and I now have 8 alignment options, or I beg your pardon, 6 alignment options and 2 spacing options. The alignment tools work by aligning all of the shapes either to the left, to the right, to the top or to the bottom, or centrally on the vertical or horizontal axis. So if I wanted all of these shapes to run along the bottom, I would tap that icon there, and you can now see they're all aligned along the bottom edge of those shapes, which is why there is a small drop in the bounding boxes to the right, because that last shape is smaller. I could change that and go to the top edge, or I could align them all to the left or the right. If I did it all to the left or the right, then basically they're just going to be on top of each other right now. So I will go back a couple of steps using my undo arrow. I could align them horizontally on the central axis or on the vertical, which again will, in this case, pile them on top of each other. I can space them out using these spacing tools, and these basically take the total width or height, depending on which choice you make, and then spread those shapes evenly out across that total space. So there was only a small change there because they're all fairly equal in size. However, that shape is now right in the middle of that overall space. Very useful, and I would encourage you to have a play with that to see how that works before moving on to the next video in this series. I'll run through that once more from the beginning with a brand new selection of shapes, just so you can see how that all ties together. So I need to first load a shape, and then I will add a circle. I need to change the size of that, but I'll come back to that in a moment. And I will add a sentiment. And again, I will need to change the size of that. So to do all those changes, I will go into my pattern editing screen. I'll begin with the circle. Again, remember, you can use your selection arrows or simply tap on screen. I need that to be smaller than the square. That's fine. So it's 3, let's set it exactly at 3 inches. With my ant shape, I can change that to be, I need that to be smaller than the circle because I want that to fit inside the aperture. So let's say 2.5 inches. Now I need to position that circle directly over the top of that square. So I need to select those 2 shapes. I'll start by having one of them selected. I'll go into my selection tools, partial selection, and then drag that box until only those 2 shapes are showing. Click OK, and once more. Now I go into my alignment tools, to the shortcuts, and then align it vertically and horizontally. Click OK, and then once more. And then at this stage I can group those. So that will now cut a square with a circular aperture, and I can then cut the word separately to position inside that circle. If I wanted the phrase to be the same color as the frame, and I wanted to save on space, what I could do is select both of those shapes, use my alignment shortcuts to position that word right in the middle, and then I can group those. And then if I wanted that bigger, I could increase that in size. With my alignment shortcuts, I can then position that right slap bang in the middle of the mat if I wanted to. And we can now see that once we get back to our pattern layout screen, we can go ahead and cut that frame, cut the word in one operation, and then simply put a square of cardstock behind it for a simple matted and layered sentiment card front.